A woman doesn't give herself away. She shares in an intimate moment with another person. But everything that she came in there with, she leaves with. Your pussy does not stay on the bed. He doesn't take the pussy and go put it inside of his pocket. You lay down with the pussy, you get up, you wash the pussy, you walk out the door with the same pussy that you came in there with. It is yours. You do not give anything up. You share in something. Hello, knockouts. Tonya TKO here. And as you know, I am a self-love specialist from TonyaTko.com. I hope you learn how to love yourselves and one another. On this channel, we use viral video topics as teachable moments in our own lives, as well as content on how to self-love instead of self-abusing through our various types of relationships. Today, we're going to be looking at this T.I. and Tiny on the Red Table Talk. So if you've been putting off watching this, or if you just haven't gotten around to it, we're going to be watching that together. I've been traveling, so I haven't been able to watch it yet. So I'm going to watch it for the first time with you all. As you know, as you see, I'm in New York right now, and I am Nigeria bound. So just make sure that you stay in touch with that. I am trying something new with my hair. I like it. I want you to tell me what it is that you think. Go on and give those thumbs up. I love this hairstyle. I think it makes me look super pretty. I like it. It looks young and fresh. But if there's any of you out there who knows how to make the coil pattern, I want like little, I just want it to be like really naughty and just like, I just want to be in my full African glory with the coil pattern that is. I do have a color in there. And for those of you who know me, you know that I am not wearing foundation right now, and you know the new year is coming. So you know I'm going to be launching my vitamin E for the once-a-year sale. So just go over to TonyaTKO.com/subscribe and make sure that you are on the mailing list. No, I do not have on foundation. Natural. So listen, I'm ready to jump into this. I guess as ready as we're going to be. I've heard a lot of different things, mixed reviews about this, but there's no way to it but to do it. So let's just jump in. Come on. Oh, Lord.
Recently, rapper T.I., or Tip, as I know him, made some highly controversial comments about his daughter's virginity, which caused a firestorm. Today, Tip and Tiny are coming to the Red Table to publicly address his comments for the first time.
Hey. What's going on? Yo, what's up, bro? Welcome. How you feeling?
Good to meet you.
Welcome, man. I just found out it was 90 degrees here today.
All right, I'm gonna let y'all go. I just wanted to say hi, you know.
Oh, so you're not gonna...
He's not sitting at the table with us.
When another king and queen show up at the house, you know.
Yeah, I was hoping...
They must be greeted and honored properly, you know what I mean?
I was hoping to offset some of these opinions on you.
Yeah.
I thought I had somebody help me carry this load.
Hey, listen, I was like, Tip coming to the Red Table. I was like, I'm gonna say hi, but y'all can't.
Right on, brother. Good to see you,
Good luck,
man.
brother.
Tell him I said keep the car ready. Ready, man.
It's all... So let me ask you this, Tip. What the hell's going on?
Now, if I may say in my defense now, and
Go ahead.
I came here for the tough stuff. No easy ride for me, baby.
Well, then you know what? Let's just start with what's in the headlines right now. And there's this...
Hymengate.
The uproar all started after T.I. gave an interview on parenting, specifically about his 18-year-old daughter, Deja, whose mother is singer Miss Nico.
So have you had the sex talk with your daughters?
Not only have we had the conversation, we have yearly trips to the gynecologist to check her height.
Oh.
From Gloria Steinem to Planned Parenthood, the backlash was immediate and huge. Founder of the Me Too movement, Tarana Burke, had this to say.
It opens up this can of worms that I don't think that he really was prepared to open up. We're talking about this long tradition of checking the purity of women's bodies. And I think that a lot of men have this idea that being a good father is protecting your daughter's virginity. But it's so problematic in so many ways. It lends itself to this notion that men own their daughters.
Author and professor of sociology at Georgetown University, Michael Eric Dyson shares his opinion.
Being a father, a black father in particular, is not the easiest thing in the world. And a guy like T.I. believed that the predatory behavior of other men who were like you when you were younger, the guys you knew were doing dirt, must be protected against. But let's be honest, T.I. was attempting to exercise control, leverage his authority as a patriarch on his daughter in terms of protecting her. But there's a difference between control and education.
If she got pregnant, people would say, how did you let your daughter get pregnant so early? And it would look like a failing on his part. But the answer to that is not policing your daughter's body. So I would love to understand better what he really thinks about this.
I just want to give you a moment to say what you feel like you'd like to say.
Firstly, I came to clear up any misconceptions that have been surrounding how we interact and parent and what is appropriate and inappropriate. Right. I think all of this surrounds a conversation that I was having in a very joking manner when asked, how do I deal with parenting in this day and age? And so I just began to, you know, from a place of truth, I began to embellish and exaggerate. And I think that a lot of people kind of like took it extremely literal, because if you put any of my reputation, like who I am as a father and who I've been, I honestly thought people knew me better than that.
Well, there's some of us that know you, but there's a lot of people who don't.
Yeah.
Do you understand the sensitivity of it all? Really?
I did not.
Do you understand it now?
Oh, I understand it now. Yes, I do. Absolutely. However, my intentions, I think, have been terribly misconstrued and misconceived.
Right.
Let me go set this record straight. I never said I was in any exam room. That is an assumption.
Right.
That is a falsity.
Got it.
I never said that it was being done present day.
Right.
As an 18-year-old.
You know, 'cause she was 15 and 16 years old at the time.
And I never said that her mother wasn't present.
Right.
Her mom was present every
went
time.
Together.
Right.
You know, he was just, you know, most fathers don't go, but he was just present.
Right.
Yeah.
And he didn't make the doctor's appointment.
No.
It was already, you know, appointment.
And all of these things, all of this narrative, this false narrative has just been sensationalized.
So at the time, her mother welcomed your presence, and your daughter did too?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was never any objection.
Right.
She did have a problem with me talking about it, however.
Right.
And I understand that. And I am incredibly apologetic to her for that.
Yeah.
To her.
Yeah.
To you, sweet baby Deja. Not to any of these other strangers and any of these weirdos who, you know, just kind of toss lies around for fun.
Yeah.
She understands my intentions, and she knows who I am. She knows who I've always been.
Right.
And I think that that allows a certain level of understanding. I mean, it's just the outside, the noise is distracting, is confusing. And
it's hurtful.
It is. It's hurtful and embarrassing.
She was horrified.
Well, I definitely understood why she would be, you know, feel like, you know, it was personal to her.
Right.
Deja's a quiet child. She doesn't talk a lot. She doesn't, you know, you have to nudge things out of her.
Right. Because we as women understand how, especially for a young girl, how delicate and what it exposes about her very private,
especially to a father,
intimate life.
I didn't get it. I was oblivious to it. However, I am now sensitive to it for her.
Yeah.
For her. And then all of a sudden, when the number 2 hit the fan, and I hadn't addressed it, you know, at her request.
Yeah.
I was taking the bullets, and that's not, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm fine in the fire.
Yeah. Right.
I'm fine in the fire.
Right.
There's no problem with that. My daughter said it. Just let it go. Don't say nothing. Just let it go. And I didn't. Until I had different directives. Okay, go ahead. Make it stop.
Right.
Clear it up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I would not be here today had I not had those different directives. I'd still be sitting in silence.
Right.
I want to learn from you. I have 3 powerful, independent, brilliant women, and I want to know, what is the purpose and place of a father in this society? Because A father like myself who wants to be as involved and as attentive as possible, we could draw the conclusion of we just donate sperm and come pay for things, and we don't really have no say-so in how things are handled.
No, that's not true. I don't think that's the case at all. And I don't think anybody has a problem with you being involved in that. I think it was more like, that's so very personal.
I don't think anybody has a problem with you protecting your daughter.
Nope.
That's not the issue.
It's the hymen that they
It's
want.
the hymen part of you. And having been a young girl myself, having raised several young women, and realizing that a woman's journey in regards to her sexuality has to be guided, right? Mostly, I think, by mothers. That's just me personally.
Okay.
But mother, in truly understanding what that journey is, takes her daughter's hand and walks her through.
Okay.
Right.
That's how I work that out with Will. There's just certain things about raising a man that I can't know. I would tell him, love your daughter,
Right.
let me teach her.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because there's certain sensitivities
Okay.
That you just don't understand.
that you might not understand and have just
This is
because
true.
of your relationship in the world
I
is
respect that.
different than a woman's relationship.
I
right?
respect that completely.
Yeah. Like I knew when you talked about it, because I live with a man that loves his daughter.
Right.
You know, in the conversations I've had to have with him in regards to what is protecting her, what is educating her, what is actually allowing her to self-actualize as her own individual self versus control.
Sure.
Right? So when I heard what happened, I said, I know what he's trying to say.
Right.
He's like, I'm present. I'm present in a way that anything that she needs,
That's right.
any kind of trouble I feel like she might be in, I'm right here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I got her.
I got
Yeah.
her.
Right.
That's
I totally understood that. But at the same time, especially when we're dealing with these kind of sensitive issues, knowing the extent of that protection. The idea that people thought you were trying to control your daughter's virginity versus, no, because that's very different.
I
It
have a
is.
question.
Okay, ask it.
Okay. First of all, the word control is very...
But you know that's what it sounds like.
I know, but in order to guide or direct, you must have a certain level of control of anything.
Okay, so
Okay,
so how do you want us to understand your level of control in which you were speaking of?
Well, I think that in the age or the time where
Right.
our women, black women, are the most unprotected,
Yes, and I
unattended,
get that.
disregarded
Yes.
women on the planet.
Yes.
I'm being criticized because I'm willing to go above and beyond to protect mine.
Right.
And I'm talking about all of the little slimy, grimy, chubby-fingered little boys who want to just come and defile and destroy the sanctity that I have. Hey, man, listen.
This guy's
I'm
trying
just
to
saying,
overtalk.
right?
Come on,
I
shut
don't
up.
understand anything that is the most important thing to me in my life. I am going to deal with that with very extreme care. And I don't understand how that is looked at as being so wrong. In order to control, for there to be malice, there must be ill intent. If I'm going to the doctor with you just for the sake of controlling you, then okay. But if I'm going for the purpose of being a protective parent, and there's no such thing as overprotective. There's protected and unprotected.
But what's important to you though? Because I don't think it's so much about virginity as
Or
much.
was it?
Or was it?
Well, to me, I am here to protect all of the children from themselves until they make it to a point where they have awareness, a sense of self, and discernment to be able to make certain decisions on their own that will impact their lives indefinitely.
So you felt as though when she's 15, 16 years old that she might not have the understanding of what it means to engage in that way?
Well, absolutely.
or-
Since she turned 18, I don't have control of anything.
Right.
It's on you. You
didn't
go.
have
You know what I
control
mean?
before.
Run, fly, be yourself. Now, getting her there, especially in a day where there's so much input, so many other perspectives thrown at children, like, you know, from YouTube to Instagram, like the concept of love, beauty, life, sex, all of those things, those lines are being blurred. every second.
Right.
So there has to be someone there to clarify what is acceptable, what is unacceptable. I trust and believe that I put moral standards, principles, and greatness in all of my children.
Right.
But until they learn how to unlock it and use those powers for themselves, it has to be harnessed.
When I think about the girls that I've raised, I was never really trying to protect their virginity versus making sure that they had a level of understanding and maturity before going into certain things. But it was never about the virginity.
It's not protecting. I'm not there to protect necessarily virginity. I just know that is a big move.
Right, okay.
Once you make that move.
Right. Okay, there we go.
There are things that happen that follow.
Right.
You have to be equipped.
Now,
And
you
I
do
don't
know
if you're equipped, or I don't know. Like, I have to, awareness is my first line of defense.
Right, so that's different.
Okay, I don't know how, but okay.
That's education.
Then
You
bitch, if
only
you shut up,
have but so much control.
Right. So I have been vocal about what to expect or not to expect foolishly of young men. You know, as she begins to engage and socialize. Just, hey, man, listen, keep your expectations low. You can't get your feelings wrapped up in this now. This is a physical urge. This is animalistic urges taking over right here. This is not an emotional, romantic encounter for this gentleman.
So,
I don't think it is.
Do you think that's the part you were trying to protect her from?
Yes, because if you aren't
You
able,
feel like young boys that age would not be able to care for
defile
your
and destroy
daughter, care for your daughter emotionally in the way in which you think she deserves.
Absolutely.
And that's what it was about.
I mean, definitely, all of the above. Then she definitely should be afraid for what could potentially come from, you know, doing the do.
Right.
You know what I mean? The dangers of pregnancy, the dangers of diseases, the dangers of, you know, just having your heart broken, thrown away and discarded, not to be forgotten.
Let's say that you went to the doctor's appointment. Now, first of all, we all know that hymens can be broken by riding a horse. It can be like, and you could be very sexually active and your hymen be intact. That is.
These are all things that
you are learning as a man now, being in the hot seat.
I'm looking to you guys to educate me.
Yes. Well, let me ask you another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say that you found out that she, at 15 or 16 years old, wasn't a virgin. What would you have done then?
Your childhood ends when you lose your virginity. That's it. Now you've ended your childhood, and it's time to begin adulthood. And I can't let you run around trying to enjoy the luxuries of adulthood without any of the responsibilities of adulthood.
But when you say your childhood ends, what do you mean? Like,
You must heighten the level of responsibility. That could be birth control, it could be financial, or just having a plan. You can't just run around not knowing what you want to do no more.
Right.
You can't just run around like, oh, I'll figure it out later. No, now you've made a decision that you want to be an adult. Now you need to have a plan together. You need to, because if you figured this out, you need to have all this figured out too.
Right, but I need to just say this, though. I still feel like it would have been different if it was your son versus your daughter.
Right. And I always think it's so interesting in how men treasure their daughter's virginity, but not their sons.
I kind of made the comparison of a son versus a daughter.
Right.
If my son goes out and gets a girl pregnant, how is the household changed for those 9 months? The household does not necessarily change those 9 months, whereas if my daughter come home, my household is changed immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
So the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
We were raised to provide and protect.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't recall having much of a childhood besides figuring out ways to get my mama out the ghetto.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So I think that if there is any more to be taught, it has to come in the form of philosophy, not punishment.
Absolutely. You just brought up something that I think is very interesting. The conditioning that comes with being a father. We all have been conditioned in a way to
Unlearn
look
and
at...
relearn.
Exactly. And I think that in this very sensitive time when we have all this
Social media.
and social justice issues around the female body.
Right. This is the thing about the female body. I think the conversation is different when it comes to mom than when it comes to dad, you see?
Oh, it's very different.
I know it, and I don't understand it. I mean, because the same thing we're talking about, just like you said, the virginity of my daughter versus the virginity of my son. Okay? So it's the same conversation around mom versus dad, because mom can tell daughter not to cut her hair, not to perm her hair, not to color her hair, not to get piercings or whatever, but she can give her body away to anybody she wants to without Pop saying anything.
Well, here's the thing, though. This is what you have to understand, though. It's a patriarchal structure that is not all that...
I heard that word before.
Yes, which is...
I heard that term before. I didn't know that term was a thing, patriarch...
Well, it's like it is structured by the views and the outlook of men.
Okay.
And it tends to be, at times, often, oppressive to the feminine journey.
Okay.
Right.
Have females actually tried to explain
Absolutely.
to men?
That's why you have
Bitch, he's
feminists.
trying to explain it now.
Okay.
That's why you have womanists.
Because I think that feminists sometimes, it can be misconstrued by people who don't understand it as women wanting men to stop silencing them so they could silence men.
Well, it's not that. There's a lot that happens in the feminine journey.
Okay.
Right? Is often told or seen and led through the eyes of men who know nothing about women and what we're going through.
Well, I think they should stay out of that.
Boom. That's the point. Because I felt like even when I heard what happened, I said, oh, he doesn't understand the level.
I don't.
He found out how serious it was and how personal it was after he said it, because you know he didn't think about that.
Yeah, and I understood that just because I'm in this house with Will. He be saying the craziest stuff. He don't understand the level. And thank God he has me and he's got Willow. So we educate that joker before he leaves this house. You know what I mean? He's one of those that likes to tell stories and
he's
sometimes goes too far. Willow has gone at her dad several times for very insensitive comments, whether it's around menstruation or around, you know, like, oh, you must be PMS. And she's like,
see
that right there? We're not going to do that. Right.
Listen, I don't see no problem with that. I don't see no problem. I mean, but
it's just respecting.
I understand that I don't understand. See, where Will at? See, this is the part right here where Will, man, see.
No, every day.
It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. What I appreciate about this moment and what I appreciate about you is understanding that this is a teachable moment.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And also, I think that it's great for me to have this opportunity, and I think that all things happen in life for a reason.
Absolutely.
You know, every lesson has a purpose, and it must be dealt with differently. But out of care and out of concern, not out of control.
And out of education.
I don't think that our community, our culture, our generation can be pushed forward by having comfortable, convenient discussions.
That's real.
We have to have tough discussions in order to move forward.
Right.
And I knew when I heard it, I said, there's a big misunderstanding.
It's a
here.
misunderstanding.
And I knew that first
I
and
appreciate
foremost.
you for that.
Oh, I knew that.
And that's
Tim.
why I wouldn't come anywhere to speak about this, because I know most people just use it as a platform for themselves.
And I understood why people misunderstood you.
So sorry Willow couldn't make it.
Well, you know what, Tip? I think he
Why
might
would
be
you want to do that with
happy
Will?
in the long run.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Hold it. We're not done yet.
I never, ever, ever had sex with anyone while we've been married.
I have never, ever, ever lied about this on the table talk.
Part 2 of our conversation with T.I. and Tiny. They have been through it. I see the emotion in your eyes. From prison
So when I got back, everything, the world was upside down.
to the brink of divorce. This conversation, this problem is the exact same thing Will and I had to work through. Next, Red Table Talk.
Oh, Lord. You know what? That was a long 22 minutes. I don't know. You know what? God have mercy. I'm not exactly sure why you all wanted me to watch this. Like, there was some huge revelation. The biggest revelatory thing that I found inside of this piece is that T.I. considers himself to be so avant-garde and such a voice of the people. But he doesn't know what the term patriarchal structure is. He doesn't know what the patriarchy is. I'm disgusted. He said he came there to listen. But what point did Jada or her mother really make? And I'm glad that Willow wasn't on there, because I could imagine that Willow would have really sunk her teeth into this man and really just kind of flew off the handle. And I don't think that a person like him would be able to handle a free-range child like Willow. This thing right here, if I had ever lost an amount of respect for T.I. before this, I lost more today. And then Tiny as well, while she's sitting her little flat ass there in the background, barely chirping up a bit. So let's go by point. You know, the piece started out okay when Jada and her mom decided that they were going to come out and educate this man. But notice how they had to revert to pandering to him. Notice how they had to use the technique of complimenting a person and saying, oh, you know, I know what you meant. I know how you feel. I know your intentions were good. And pandering to this punk so that they could then soothe and satiate his ego. And then what ended up happening is that it only fed his ego, and he just ended up cutting them off. What did he learn from this piece? What did you really get to hear Jada say? Because when she got into the point where she was like beginning to talk about the difference between control and protection, that's when T.I. just jumped in, overtalked her, mansplained to her. Instead of listening, he did most of the talking so that he could get his point of view out there. As he claimed, right? He was joking and he embellished. The man, this is who you all are looking to for racial advice. This is the advocate. Somebody's talking about embellish. I cannot. Then he's talking about all of these other weirdos out here, but he doesn't consider himself a damn weirdo for being so concerned about his daughter's hymen. It's like the real good points were never raised in this. They started trying to talk about how a hymen could be broken in any other way. They never talked about anal or oral sex. It's like the fixation is on this debunked piece of skin. And you know what? New York has passed legislation to outlaw doctors performing any type of purity exams, and that these doctors will be charged a fine, have their medical licenses nearly be ripped away, and charged with sexual assault or criminal sexual assault for these unnecessary exams, because this piece of skin does not prove anything. And this man is standing up there talking about this is the first time that he's heard that a person can have intercourse and still have the hymen intact. And then also, what does the hymen have to do? What does the hymen have to do with her being defiled? Because you're just concerned about the vaginal opening. As we discussed in the first video that I did talking about this, she could be getting bust all inside of her rectum. If you want to talk about being defiled, sucking all types of dick, getting bust all up inside of her ass. But as long as that piece of skin is over the vaginal opening, and it's like there's so much that's convoluted in here. He claims that, so first of all, he's this big patriarch of the family controlling all this, that, and the other. But then he claims that the reason why he stayed silent is because the same child that he's governing and overruling is the same one who was like, oh, just be quiet about it. And of course, oh yes, he listened. And then when he received different directives, that's when he came out and was like, oh, now I'm going to have this red tape. That's ridiculous. Then he gives these false equivalents, talking about if fathers don't do that, then they're just going to be thought of as people who donate sperm and pay for things. Donate sperm and pay for things. And I'm like, if you feel that the only way for you to actually participate in your daughter's or your children's upbringing is the paying for things and the donating of sperm, or having a doctor crank their legs open to check for a piece of flap of skin that does that, or that has been debunked throughout the ages, And then also, it's like, whatever happened to talking to your daughter? Whatever happened to having mature conversations with her about sex, sexuality? What does it mean to be sexually active? What does it mean to have protected intercourse, to protect yourself, to protect your body, your mind, your spirit, all of those things? None of that is addressed in cracking somebody's legs open and checking for a flap of skin, which, by the way, has been debunked even in medieval times as an indicator of virginity. And then they started talking about how it's a woman's job to help her daughter self-actualize, that the father can be there to protect. And it's like, this man is so ignorant. He can't think of any other way that he can contribute positively to the rearing of his children besides having control, contorted control over over his daughter's hymens. This is just, it's embarrassing. He says he came there to learn, but he wasn't even listening. He's claiming that he's being criticized for being involved. No, and you see, this is the part that is very frustrating. It's very frustrating when you're dealing with a person who thinks that they know so much that instead of listening, they continue to gaslight you. Nobody's criticizing him for being involved. Nobody's criticizing him for having heart-to-heart father and daughter talks. People are criticizing him for enacting some medieval tactic before we had knowledgeable doctors. Enacting some medieval tactic on his daughter and using that as some sort of benchmark. But a benchmark for what? A benchmark for what? When you love yourself, you honor your body. Teaching your daughters to love themselves and to honor their bodies is a far cry different than being like this, your virginity is the most important thing. No, it's like, by the time a person reaches 15, 16 years old and they start feeling the desire to explore and to experiment, who they experiment with, how they experiment with this person, this person or persons, is really going to be a personal choice. As a parent, we come in there and we assist them in being able to make the best personal choice for them. But at the end of the day, the choice is theirs. And then, you know what I found really disturbing? And let me jump ahead. What I found really disturbing is when he started saying that childhood ends when your virginity is quote unquote lost, and that's when heightened responsibilities come there. And remember, we had that conversation during the first video. What did he mean? And a lot of us thought that there was something financial involved in there. And then he tried to sneak it in at the end, that now, they might have to talk about birth control and heightened responsibilities, and you cannot have the luxuries of a child while you're doing adult things. And then he started talking about the financial aspect of it. So now, of course, now if you decide to have ownership of your body and do with it as you responsibly choose to, then all of a sudden, because if the biggest issue is pregnancy, there's many ways not to become pregnant. But the issue now then becomes that she is not his pure, innocent little girl. So if she is not pure and innocent, then he's going to take away financial treats or gifts or the financial payings of things, maybe college, car, all of these things. So that she pledges her virginity to him, so that she maintains her virginity for him, so that he is then paying for things because she has decided not to let another man enter her. And he talks about the weirdos out there, but doesn't understand that he is a weirdo for being so obsessed with whether or not his daughter decides when it's time for her to share herself. He's talking about giving herself away. No, bitch, no. A woman doesn't give herself away. She shares in an intimate moment with another person. But everything that she came in there with, she leaves with. Your pussy does not stay on the bed. He doesn't take the pussy and go put it inside of his pocket. You lay down with the pussy, you get up, you wash the pussy, you walk out the door with the same pussy that you came in there with. It is yours. You do not give anything up. You share in something. And it's like, I'm so disappointed in Jada and her mother. See, like, Willow wouldn't have had the quote unquote good sensibilities to keep her mouth shut during those times. And I kind of wish that Willow was on there too, so that she could challenge this man. But her grandmother and mother knew that he wasn't the type of man that would take too kindly to a girl child, really challenging him on his misogyny. And so I'm really disappointed in the way Jada and her mother just sat down there and let this man run roughshod through this interview without them really checking him in his toxic masculinity, the toxicity of policing and lording over your daughter's vagina so that you give her special perks and favors as long as no other man comes near her pussy. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. Then he starts talking about the household changing. If his son goes out there and before we talk about that, would the financial gifts and treats change for the son? I mean, because his son at the age of 13 had revealed that he had shared his virginity. And though T.I. was shocked at first, he only laughed it off in the end. Did he talk about heightened responsibilities for that boy? And part of it is because he says the household changes dramatically if the daughter gets pregnant versus when the son gets pregnant. Okay, first of all, let's talk about it. First of all, the miracle of growing a life inside of your body is a beautiful journey that women have been chosen to undertake. And it is being around a pregnant woman is a special and miraculous time for anyone. You get to see the burgeoning of the budding body and the budding life and the miracle that is involved in the human body shifting and changing to accommodate life. So the people who are in the household with a young lady get to be a part and a witness to that firsthand. However, in any household with parents who are worth a good goddamn, if their son gets someone pregnant, there are tremendous changes that exist inside of their house as well, because there is a level of involvement that good grandparents have when their son goes out there and impregnates someone. Their family dynamic changes as well. The son changes, the parents change. The only difference is that it's in the other household that they get to be a party to the firsthand, day by day, day in and day out, the differences that occur. But listen, you know what? Let's move on. Did you all catch that shade? When Jada was like, thank goodness Will has us. She was like, thank goodness Will has me and Will has Willow to keep him in check. That's a direct slight at Tiny, because Tiny is so bubblegum-headed, just bimbotic, that she's just sitting there letting this man do whatever in their damn household. She can't even keep her own man under control sexually as he goes out there on the rampage, right? Just doing willy-nilly as he chooses. She can't even alter his behavior in how he shows up in his daughters' lives and in their panties. I just found this whole thing just really ridiculous. But I caught that shade because she was like, thank goodness he has us, but look at who your man has, and this is why he's out there in the street behaving this way. Listen, I'm not even just so much even because the choice to cheat is a personal choice that a human being makes, but the choice to stay with a cheater is the one that she made. So listen, let's go forward, because Tiny in and of herself is in an abusive, toxic relationship with that human being. So let's go on. Oh, listen, did you all peep the part In the same way that T.I. was running around out there, doing people's daughters and discarding them, still discarding them to this day, that then all of a sudden when it comes to his little preciosa, then all of a sudden he wants to be hyper vigilant with her vagina. Instead of, because of how it is that he's saying boys show up out there. Listen, boys ain't got nothing to do with your daughter and what it is that she chooses to do. How other people's children out there, how does that reflect upon your own child? Any parent who has raised a responsible daughter knows that it's not so much talking to the other people. It's a matter of talking to your own child and creating the relationship with your own child that alters how your child behaves out there, what your child thinks is feasible and possible. And while you're over there humiliating them and destroying their self-esteem, that's the stuff that leads them out there to go find comforts and to go find acknowledgement and validation in the streets. So no, it's not his job to crack her vagina open or have people crack her nanny open to check for a debunked piece of skin. But to be there as a patriarch, as a paternal figure in her life, to love her and show her what healthy love looks like by loving her mother in a healthy way, by loving his wife in a healthy way. He is the example right there. Remember when we showed that video of the man who was talking about a daughter's example of what fatherhood, what manhood, what relationship looks like, is the one that she received from her father. What firsthand example is Deja receiving from the type of man that T.I. is showing himself to show up as in the relationship that he had with her mother, the relationship that he has with Tiny, and the multitudes of relationships that he has out there in the damn streets? That right there has far more impact than you policing a person's thin film of skin between their damn twatty. I'm disgusted by this, and I don't feel any wiser or better from watching this table talk. The same ignorance that he perpetuated on that damn blog is the same ignorance that him and his little mushmouth self came up there on the TV to spit. Except now I'm horrified and disgusted by Jada and her mother, who sat there and allowed this man to just yamma on their airwaves. Listen, I'm going to get out of here. I want to hear your thoughts below. I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted. So go ahead and leave your comments. I know that the situation is split in the Black community, because we Black people, especially, look, us Black people here in America, many of us don't know what healthy love looks like. Many of us don't know what healthy paternal involvement looks like. And there are so many women out there who are so longing for paternal input that they are wishing that their father was inside their pussy. And it's disgusting, it's grotesque, and it shows the state of where it is that we are as a people. Far too many of us just never really had a father that was worth a good goddamn at home, that we don't even really know what it looks like. So we are wishing that we had somebody be involved with our vaginas. And it's like, we just really don't know. We don't know. That as a young woman, that's not what it is that you want it to be. Our job as parents is to prepare our children for the world. Prepare our children for it. And, especially with me, my mother died when I was 19. And then I was on my own, having to figure out all of this. Once I was then free, look, so I was set out of the house, never really having the chance to date, and then my mother died, and then there was no guidance there. It is up to us as parents to guide our children into making their own decisions as early as possible, so that they can know what is right for them. It's like, first of all, your daughter's pussy is not yours. You don't own her pussy. That is her vagina, it's her body, it's her decision of when she chooses to share herself with another and participate in intimacy. You know, believe it or not, penis is not the worst thing that can happen to a young lady. It's like we spend so much time embedding in girls that penis is the enemy, that men are the enemy, that men are dirty and filthy, and that touching a young man will defile you. We spend so much time embedding that into young ladies, and then when we set them free out of the house, we then all of a sudden expect all of that programming to switch around into them having healthy sexual relationships. You know what? We need to do a whole video just talking about virginity and celibacy and the myth and the misnomers. I want your thoughts below on this one. I'm exhausted from this conversation. I'm exhausted from it. Listen, Tonya TKO, and I'm out. Go out there and love one another. Most importantly, love yourself. And part of loving yourself is realizing that your children, they come through you, but they are not you. They are their own human beings, and they have a right to govern themselves. They have a right to decide. And it's like, you know what? It starts out young. And this is why there's so many young people out there who self-harm as a way of hurting their parents. Because we don't teach them young enough that the decisions and choices that they make are really affecting their lives and the types of lives that they're going to have going forward. Children have a tremendous amount of comprehension and processing abilities, but we keep them mentally crippled and small, and we debilitate them from really creating a natural, harmonious shift into adulthood. It's like, and it's just far too many of us, especially Black parents, where it's like we take our children and we keep the training wheels on, and we keep them small, and we keep them ignorant, and we keep them inexperienced. And then we just take the training wheels off and kick them the hell out the damn house. And it's like there needs to be a slow progression. And there should never be a time where we embed into girls that boys are sexually disgusting, and that sex with boys, like penis, is the worst thing that can happen to them. And you know what? This happens a lot in the Black community. They teach that black dick is one of the worst things that can happen to you as a young lady. I could say so much more. Listen, I'm going to get out of here. Tonya TKO, and I'm out. Peace.